I'm Jordan. I'm the marketing director here at Young Scholars Academy. This is another episode of our Wisdom and Wine video series. Today we're going to talk about being a step parent. It's a topic that not a lot of people talk about just because it is a sensitive topic, but it's one of the things that can have the biggest impact on children. And so we're just going to kind of briefly walk through some of the points, the different perspectives of a parent versus a step parent, and just like how we can all benefit the kids.
Hi, I'm Jen. I'm the center director.
Hi, I'm Miss Sarah. I'm an infantry lead teacher.
So we're excited to share with you guys.
Yay.
Okay, so my stepson is 9 years old. We have 50-50 custody, which means he's 50% with his mom and 50% with his dad. We are trying to focus on the hardest part with the co-parenting is that we both have different parenting styles as far as, he may be allowed to do one thing at his mother's house and, at our house we expect something different. So at times that's a very challenging part as being a step parent is trying to have the patience to understand where he's coming from when he comes back home.
That's a really neat perspective. And then you add school, because a teacher's expectations in the classroom are going to be a whole other thing. I mean, obviously, for kids that are 50-50 or have step parents, or in this situation, are probably definitely looking for parameters. They're looking for, what's okay, what's not okay, and so. Yeah, I mean, that explains tons, actually, why they're asking so many questions. I know kids that, spend part-time, even really little ones, at 2, they're like, is mommy coming or is daddy coming? Like, they don't know a calendar, they don't know that, so they're trying to figure out what their life is going to look like that day. That's interesting.
And that is challenging for him to go back and forth, at times, and I have to try to look at it as, he has 2 loving families. We both love and support him. We try to give him an outline of what his schedule is going to be like so that he knows where he's going, on which days, and transition days sometimes can be challenging for him, and those are the days that we give him extra love and show him extra patience and, ask him what he needs to be happy and feel loved.
That makes sense. I mean, and he's a great kid, so, it's kind of easier because he's, he's really good at communicating. I just go back to, the 2-year-old that might have the favorite stuffed animal that they sleep with at mom's house, and then they go to dad's house and they're screaming their head off, and dad doesn't know. Why won't they go to sleep? Well, we're not sharing that stuffed animal because we don't have a good enough relationship, and our kid is suffering. That's kind of a frustrating place for a 2-year-old. I could see.
And he has a stuffed animal that
nice.
He takes back and forth, and on our Fridays when he goes to his mom's, we make sure, do you have your teddy bear? Because it's his security blanket.
Right. That's his connection between everything. Yeah, that's his buddy no matter where he is.
Yep.
I could see that being a big deal. A blanket, a stuffed animal, something. I mean, no matter where the relationship is with mom and dad, originally, obviously there's going to be hard feelings there. There's going to be harbored feelings there. But being able to see that the best interest of that kiddo is the most important thing, and maybe, come up with plans, like you said, telling them where they're going to be when they understand a calendar and understand that stuff, giving them something that is consistent all the way through, whether it's a blanket, a stuffed animal, a picture, something, and just be knowledgeable of the fact that if they love their dad still, doesn't mean they don't love their mom, and making sure that they, get to feel good about them, for sure.
My next point I'd like to talk about is making sure that you and the biological parent keep a civil relationship for the child. I think it's very important for the child to see all of you getting along, and because it helps him learn how to build relationships, and how he can learn from us if we're teaching him to be if we're showing him to be nasty. That's what he's gonna grow up learning, is to be nasty towards people that he may not care for. I think.
Yeah, just building on that, one, parents, again, there's a lot of hard feelings usually. I've seen some done really well and some really, really bad. I was a stepkid, and ours was really, really bad. So, the last thing you want to do is make your kid, number one, your kid is a combination of the two of you. Before step-parents came in, and so saying anything bad about each other, that's a piece of them, and you're attacking them. So I think conversation is clearly super important to take place. I think that, when you were talking, the point that I would just want to bring up is that as your kids grow older, they're going to make their own decisions and see who's right or wrong. Most of the time, both people are wrong and both people are right. But teaching them to communicate with somebody that they don't care for is so critical in life. I mean, how many times do we go through and we have people that we don't care for, but we manage to have conversation and get things, and that's a skill. That's a great skill to teach them. So I think it's a really important point that you brought up, to teach them how to do that.
Mm-hmm. And, keeping the line of communication open between both parents and even the step-parent to
Absolutely.
say, hey, they need this for the coming weekend, and we always make sure that we go above and beyond for him. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who is right, who is wrong, as long as the big picture is focusing on his happiness.
Right.
Is what we focus on.
Right. It's tough. I mean, emotions are tough. Like I said, going through a divorce is hard enough,
Right.
but then you take in, adding a step-parent, either a male or female, to any of the, you feel replaced, and parenting is tough anyway. I mean, it's just an emotional journey anyway. And so to be able to work through your own thing and know that, nobody's replacing you, we're enhancing, and it's just getting bigger and better. He has two families that love him, like
Right.
you said. If you can get to that point, that's when you win.
Mm-hmm. And we always, holidays, that's another thing that's hard for
I bet.
him, because, he'll be with us one holiday and with her the next. And I think I try to tell him and say, hey, buddy, you get 2 birthdays, and
Right.
you get 2 Christmases. Like,
Right.
not a lot of people get that. I know that it's hard for you to leave your dad and your sister, but look at it this way, like, you get an extra Christmas,
Right.
and I
Right.
try to push the positive side of it, because it's challenging enough for him to have to go back and forth and miss 50% of his life with his mom, miss 50% of his life with his dad,
Right. And
So.
and kids always think it's their fault. I mean, if you have an argument as a married couple, if you have anything that happens, the kids always somehow feel like it's their fault. And so keeping the communication open and saying, hey, this is awesome for you, and letting him talk back is really important, I think. So let's talk about brain development. Depending on when separation happens, I mean, there's so many important touch points within a child's life. If it happens really early, that parents are separated, you got to work really hard to keep both parents involved there and connections, because brain synapses are being created. If it happens during high school, wow, that's another big time of life. It's never easy. It's never
Right.
an easy time for anything to happen, but staying involved, staying with that school's important, their brain development is important, and not fighting in front of them, not being negative in front of them, because you're growing their brain, and they're going to use that the rest of their lives. I mean, it's really that important.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's very important too to communicate with their teachers, to let them know, hey, this is our schedule. He goes to mom's on this week, dad's on this week. We've tried in the past saying, can you send an extra brochure home, on
That's
this.
a good idea. Picture day too, like maybe 2 order forms kind of thing.
Right, and
Right.
they've always been very good about communicating with that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
they have always had a very good relationship with the teachers. And,
That's good.
sometimes a conference may need to happen with both families because you get one story over here and
Sure.
another story over here. But really at school, we need to hear from the teachers
Right.
and what they think he needs to succeed in school,
Mm-hmm.
because they see him, not at mom's, not at dad's, they see him at school.
Right, which is raw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really important. Yeah, it's really important to bring everybody to the table. I mean, it really does take a village.
Mm-hmm.